the chairman, the keynote speaker, the Secretary of Transportation for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, venerable ministers, the President of the Nigerian Society of South Central Pennsylvania, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all here tonight on the occasion of the signing ceremony of the book Surviving in Biafra. As I look around and see the number of people who have come tonight to grace this occasion, I cannot help but be filled with a deep sense of elation, gratitude to you all, and thankfulness to Almighty God who made this day possible. To paraphrase Winston Churchill, this has indeed been my finest hour, but make no mistake about it. My family and I owe it to you all for coming out in great numbers to support us and for buying the book. We thank you immensely from the bottom of our hearts. Some have wondered what gives me the impetus or the locus standi to write about the Nigeria-Biafra War. Well, as a little boy living in Biafran enclave during the 30-month war, I witnessed the devastation. I guess you can say that the book is an eyewitness account. Some have also asked how this book project came about in the first place. They wonder if I've always known that I would write a book. Frankly, I would have liked to say that I've always known that I would write a book, but if I say that, it would not be true. Writing of the book Surviving in Biafra is purely an accident of history, and here is why. This book project was born on the World Wide Web, precisely on the pages of the internet news magazine called Nigeria-World.com, which is read by thousands all over the world. On this website, I write weekly news commentaries about the socio-economic and political situation in Nigeria under a column called Uzokwe's Searchlight. Sometime in December of 2001, I wrote an article titled Sack Dupe Adelaja, but Ndi Igbo must do more. It was in response to a statement credited to Nigeria's Sub-Minister for Defense, Mrs. Dupe Adelaja. She was quoted as saying that soldiers who fought on the side of Biafra during the war were traitors. These were soldiers who fought to prevent the annihilation of the Igbo tribe, of which I'm one. I and many others were deeply offended by what she said because Biafrans fought a war of survival, not aggression. Also, considering the extent of lives lost in that conflict, I felt that her statement was exceedingly insensitive. In my article, which was addressed to Nigeria's president, I called for the resignation of the sub-minister. In the article, I promised my readers that I would write a 3-part essay about Nigerian Civil War and the suffering and the death in Biafra. I wanted to show my readers why I was very incensed by what the sub-minister said. I did not realize that my readers paid much attention to a promise I made without thinking too much about. But when my next article was published the next week on Nigeria World, and it was not the story of Biafra, I was inundated with emails from my readers. They wanted to know why I broke my promise to write the story of suffering and death in Biafra. As a result, I started writing the 3-part story about Biafra. The first part of the series was published in January of 2002. After the release of the second part, and while I was preparing for the last part of the essay, my readers started emailing again. This time they wanted me to put the story in a book form. They reasoned that in a book form I would be able to tell the whole story in one fell swoop. They felt that it would not be possible to tell the whole story of the war in a 3-part essay. After some initial trepidation, I started writing, and the book Surviving in Biafra was born, and the rest is history. Some people have argued that 33 years after the war, writing a book like this is tantamount to reopening old wounds. My answer has always been that those who shy away from history are bound to repeat it. Several volumes have been written about the World Wars and the Vietnam War. More are still being written. Those documents preserve history and help prevent more conflicts. Previous books about the Biafran War were written by field commanders who talked about their heroic deeds. My account of the Biafra War looks at what the ordinary people like children, women, and the elderly endured. The book is in essence the story of survival in Biafra. My story is written from the perspective of a little boy who witnessed the deadly effects of malnutrition on innocent children, a boy who saw families bury their loved ones in utmost anguish, a boy who had his own share of the tragic losses of loved ones. That little boy is standing before you tonight by the grace of God, but I must confess that the nightmare has not completely dissipated. Ladies and gentlemen, the Nigerian Civil War ended more than 30 years ago, and I wish I could say to you tonight that all of the problems that led to that unfortunate episode have been solved. Unfortunately, they still linger. Nigeria has failed to adhere to the admonition as entrenched in her national anthem, which read in part, "The laborers of our heroes past shall never die in vain, to serve with heart and might, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity." That unity still not in Nigeria today, and so peace and stability are always threatened. As we speak, Nigeria is holding another round of elections under a democratic system of government. In my mind, that is a good first step. But there is a Latin saying that goes thus, "Coculus non face monachum," meaning the hood does not make the monk. In other words, just because someone is wearing a hood does not make him a monk or righteous. What I'm trying to say here is that there is more to democracy than just adopting a democratic system of government. Nigeria must adopt those universally accepted tenets by which true democracy is measured. She must accept the fact that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Surviving in Biafra is not an attempt to shame Nigeria because she has many good things and millions of good people. The book is an attempt to get Nigeria to confront her unfortunate past in order to embrace the dawn of a new era, an era where life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness will be accorded the utmost respect. It is the hope of this author that by chronicling Nigeria's unfortunate past in the book Surviving in Biafra, it will help bring about an egalitarian society in Nigeria, where people will learn to coexist side by side without bitterness or rancor, and without the cankerworm of interethnic animosity or religious intolerance. I envision a nation where in the final analysis peace and unity will reign supreme. In conclusion, I would like to thank you all once again for making out the time to be with us tonight. Some came from far and some came from near. Some are my fellow Nigeria-World.com columnists and my colleagues at work. Others are my siblings and relatives and my pastor. Many are my friends in Nigerian Society of South Central Pennsylvania, while several are simply well-wishers. I especially thank the Secretary of Transportation for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Mr. Al Biller, and his wife, for taking out the time to be with us in spite of their hectic schedule. I thank you all for coming. God bless Nigeria, and God bless the United States of America.